I'm delighted to be able to welcome you all this morning or this afternoon to Accessing Mobile Data National Strategies and Challenges. My name is Janet McLaren. I'm with the Global Partnership for Sustainable Development Data. My role there is to work on policy issues related to data sharing and accountable data governance. And I'm actually based in Austin, Texas. We have and will have um, translation or interpretation on this meeting. And so if you would like to hear the audio in Spanish or in French, you can find a button at the bottom of your screen that will allow you to do that. All right. Well, with that, I'm joined here by my colleague Sim Esco from Positium. Sim, can I pass it to you to introduce yourself while I quickly work out the translation?
Of course. So, welcome to this webinar. I think the world of accessing mobile data is very exciting, although a very strenuous journey for many countries. And happy to have this webinar on this access topic, especially, and see where we are on this journey for different countries and what you can learn from these. Janet, are you okay if I start the introductory words and presentation?
Yes, let me just share my screen. Sam, I think you've added some slides for this today, and so let me share my screen quickly and then absolutely take it away.
Right. First off, I want to say how grateful I am that we have such an esteemed lineup of speakers here today. So I will give just introductory remarks on the state of play, where we are with mobile data and mobile data for statistics, specifically how to use mobile data for building up national data systems. But later you will hear from multiple speakers from very different countries, from different parts of the world. And these countries have also gone different routes, or they are going to different routes on mobile data access. We will hear from Botswana, who just started on their journey to access mobile data, having discussions with mobile network operators that seem to be working well just this year. Then we will have Uruguay, which went to the route of changing their legislation to have cooperation with MNOs. And then we have Indonesia, which for many years has been a practitioner on the use of mobile phone data for statistics, and many mobile network operators are let's say, trying to cooperate with statistical office to put their data in use for statistics. So, yes, so my name is Simesko. I want to briefly introduce also why I'm here leading this webinar for those who don't know me. So I lead the project development, international project development at Positium. And Positium is a strange company in a sense that we have this niche that we focus on, which is making sure that governments and national data systems of the world benefit from mobile positioning data provided by mobile network operators. This is a very small niche. We're also a small company from Estonia. Started back in 2003 as a spin-off company of the University of Tartu in Estonia. And 2003 is more than 20 years ago. And that's why I can tell you that it's been, we've gone far in the world in terms of coming closer and closer to this mission that is on the bottom of the slides, that we will come to in the future, where every country in the world benefits from mobile data for the good of society. So next, perhaps it's important also to note that the use of this data for statistics is not new. It's new for many countries, but there is certain history, aura of history behind use of this data for statistics. Janet, can you go forward one slide? So yes, the honorable or dubious record for the longest running time series on statistics based on mobile network operator data goes to Estonia and the Central Bank of Estonia. They have gone through several different models, but in collaboration, mostly in collaboration with Positium over the years, over different collaboration routes, we have successfully had a continuous time series for travel statistics based on data from 1, 2, or 3 mobile network operators in Estonia. So this is data that is published as official statistics. And the project is still continuing for hopefully years and years to come. This is what we want to do with official statistics, to have a sustainable time series based on the best source of data available. Next. So the reason why the Central Bank of Estonia is doing this and has done this for so many years is because once they've moved to a big data source for this type of statistics and figured out that this is actually the right solution for them, they have not looked back. And there are many benefits from the use of mobile data for statistics, if you can overcome the challenges, of course. So the benefits, which are important to note, is that compared to surveys, the Central Bank of Estonia did surveys for travel statistics, both inbound and outbound travel, before using this data source. So compared to surveys from before, the data comes in faster than it could with surveys. Also, the sample size, just the mere number of statistical units considered in the statistical production, is 200 times greater. There are more countries that you can now break down into in terms of where people go to travel and from which countries people come to the country on a business or leisure travel trip. It's more cost efficient for the bank, and of course it's more efficient for the tourists who don't have to answer those surveys. There are still surveys done every few years to check on motivations and other qualitative criteria, but it's obvious that there are many benefits. And why I talk about these benefits also is this is having a clear understanding of which benefits you are going after is a key component in how you define the project, how do you define the need for this data for your statistics, what is statistics you're trying to produce, and what is the impact you're trying to have for the country or for the production effectiveness, for example, and the quality of statistics production. So this is an important key, and there are examples on the benefits. So next, tourism is just, and travel is just one example. now there is a committee of experts on big data and data science for official statistics that has been set up and has been working since 2014 already. And because of this long experience on working on different big data sources, but specifically on mobile phone data as well, this committee of experts, including some of the people on this call, have come together to write guides on how to use and where to use mobile phone data for statistics. And the guides are in 6 different domains. You can see them here: tourism, population, information society or ICT statistics, migration, disaster, and also transport and commuting. So these different domains have been covered with case studies and also methodological guidance on how to use mobile network operators data for statistics. And also, I need to mention, Janet, can you click? I have to mention that the case studies covered in these guides, so these are the best-in-class case studies, they cover 50% of the population of the world and almost a third of the land area of the world. There are big countries here that contribute a lot to these statistics. There are also small countries, so the different experiences are, of course, varied. And there are, next. So these countries do not work alone. They are supported by many different global actors who want to support the use of mobile network operator data for statistics. This group of international organizations has evolved over time. Now there's a distinct group of organizations who support global work on this front. Mostly here you can see organizations of the UN, but also organizations that represent mobile network operators like the GSMA. And there are regional organizations like different UN organizations that are responsible for statistics development, like Eurostat or ESCAP and different economic commissions in different regions. And all of these support the use of MPD in different measures. They support with capacity building, different funding programs, also awareness raising through webinars. In the regional economic commissions of the UN, they have set up big data hubs, which are responsible for this capacity building and awareness raising on big data sources for statistics. So a lot of work is going on to support different countries and also to support countries to share experiences between each other and share experiences between countries and experts and vice versa. So here at this webinar, I want to perhaps now give the floor to Esperanza. She's also representing one of these organizations to talk a little bit about how the regulatory environment has changed, what are the different data access models we're seeing, and her experience with supporting MNO data use for statistics.
Sim, Esperanza, before you come in, may I just say one thing? Thank you, Sim, for that very enlightening overview of where we're at with this topic. We're really lucky today to have a slate of speakers from across a few different sectors. And so the goal of this session is to really surface some of the incentives and challenges from the perspectives of different actors and different stakeholders in these processes. This should be an open conversation, and I encourage you to drop your questions in the chat. Zoom thinks I'm speaking Vietnamese. I'm not. I encourage you to drop your questions in the chat, and we'll keep track of them. And at the end, have some time for about 10 minutes for a Q&A for anyone who is speaking today. The other thing is, please introduce yourself in the chat if you'd like to share your contact information so other people on this call can find you. Please, you're welcome to do that. And with that, I will pass it to Esperanza. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janet, and good afternoon, good morning to everyone. So as Sim mentioned, I'm the senior statistician from the International Telecommunication Union, but at the same time, I'm also leading the UN Committee of Expert task team on mobile phone big data. So Sim showed earlier a slide on the 6 guides that were developed and published by this task team. So those different guides provide comprehensive information that also includes discussions on data access. Next slide, please. So just to give an overview of where I'm coming from. So as one of the UN specialized agencies, our mandate is to collect, in terms of statistics, is to collect the data pertaining to our sector. So like, for example, if you're talking about labor and employment, it's the International Labor Organization. And for us, it's the Information and Communication Technology Statistics. And so we have been collecting this data for more than 50 years now. And the data that we collect are both coming from the supply side, meaning the telecom regulators and administrations, ministries of telecommunication, and also from the demand side, coming from national statistical offices, data that are collected from surveys and censuses. So in this work, particularly on the left side, we interact a lot with telecom regulators. They are our constituencies who complete our questionnaires pertaining to the different telecom services in the country. So if you see the data, for example, total number of mobile subscriptions, total mobile broadband subscription, and traffic generated, as well as pricing, these are the data that we collect and disseminate that are coming from the supply side indicators. The demand side are those that are collected, as I said, using household surveys, and one of them is the percentage of the population using the internet, and that is only collected using national household surveys or population census. But those 2 areas of work, we found out that with the rise of mobile services and availability of mobile devices around the world, it's important that we look at an additional data source, which is opening up to our big data work. And so the idea here is to combine the data that are coming from administrative sources and the demand side data to basically address data gaps that are inherent with population census or data that are not necessarily collected using household surveys. Next slide, please. So we started working on mobile phone big data sometime in 2016, as Sim mentioned. And in that year, what we wanted to find out is how can we work on mobile phone big data. So it was really a very exploratory type of work where we would like to see how countries can work on their mobile phone big data. So we look at 5 countries at that time coming from each of the IT regions. And in that project, what we would like to find out is how countries could move ahead with national coordination, how they can access the data, and what are the resources or skills that are necessary to look at or work with mobile phone big data. And in those 5 examples or pilots, what we found out is that data access is the top, I would say, challenge that countries face when working on mobile phone big data. So this challenge has not necessarily improved. I would say it's still the main challenge that countries are facing. And I think it's very good that we talk about today regarding the data access and how we can help countries facilitate these data access challenges that are happening in countries. So we look at, from that perspective of the project, three processing models, and that also relates to data access model. One of the model that was used in those pilots is the operator-led calculation. And this is where the operators themselves calculates the data or the indicators that are provided to them. They do it in their local premises. And at that time, we had to send data scientists to work with the operators' data scientists to calculate the data. So this is one of the model. And here, what happens is that the regulator or the National Statistics Office acts as an agency who will compile the calculated indicator. And so in this scenario, what we found out is that there needs to be a very thorough discussions with the mobile operators to make sure they follow the standards and the methods that we have for the indicators that we gave them. And it was also a challenge to come back to them if there's a question on the data that they aggregated. A second option is agency-led, which is the telecom operators, so the mobile network operators, are extracting their data and transferring them directly to the telecom regulator or the ministry or to the National Statistics Office. This is, I would say, one of the most efficient way to go, because whoever is going to analyze the data have a first sight of the raw data, the anonymized data. So they are able to clean the data properly and apply the methodology across the different data sets that's coming from the different operators. And the third option is the public-private partnership. This was not necessarily implemented in the pilot, but this is a model that was used in other countries that we encountered throughout our work on mobile phone big data. So between 1 and 2 options, the regulator plays a key role. And I think I would like to highlight that, because in every kickoff exercise on mobile phone big data, it is important that the national stakeholders are involved. In our pilot projects that started in 2016, we initiated the work on the mobile phone big data by contacting the the telecom regulator. So they were the one, or the ministry. So they were the one who facilitated the coordination of the project in the country. They were the ones who did a kickoff meeting with the mobile operators to explain to them the motivation of the work, the use case, and how data access could be facilitated or agreed between the different operators and the agency who will be analyzing the data. It was also them who look at the necessary documents like the NDAs, the non-disclosure agreements, and the MOU between the different stakeholders who would take part in the project. So the regulator was leading those initiatives. And this work of the regulator is not necessarily new to them. As I mentioned, they oversee the mobile network operators in their country. They are the ones that look at how the market evolves. They look at how the mobile operators implements the services that they have outlined in their licenses. And so they have a mandate to work directly with the mobile operators. In our discussions with several countries, most recently, we found out that many telecom regulators have direct access to the data. And so in those cases, data access are not necessarily a big issue to those countries, because the telecom regulator sort of like expanded the word data to not just mean aggregated data, but also individual level data. And of course, these data are all anonymized. And it's also the work of the regulator to work hand in hand with the data privacy organization of the country to make sure that data are secured and anonymization are properly done. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the telecom regulator plays a key role in ensuring that the data access from the mobile network operators are facilitated. But in terms of our work, we work directly with the telecom regulator and facilitate the discussions with the different stakeholders. Sometimes it's even us contacting the National Statistics Office because in some countries, the telecom regulator and the National Statistics Office doesn't have direct link. Either the National Statistics Office works with the ministry and not necessarily the telecom regulator. So we facilitate those discussions and ensure that the methods and other requirements that we would like to facilitate or have the regulator request from mobile operators are in place. So our role in this exercise are being, I would say, showcased in several countries already. We have several discussions that are ongoing with several countries, including those that were discussed in 2023 and 2024, and also other countries that came to us just recently. Next slide, please. So this is just to show you some of the successful use cases. So the 5 countries that we had in 2016, Georgia, Colombia, Kenya, Philippines, and UAE. And the 16 indicators are all pertaining to the ICT indicators, the Information Society indicators. But in 2020 to 2021, we look at Brazil and Indonesia, particularly on 2 SDG ICT indicators, the population covered by mobile network, broken down by technology, and another SDG indicator, which is percentage of population using the internet. We have ongoing discussions now with Malaysia, Mongolia, Liberia, Uganda, and Uruguay, and these are also directly with the telecom regulators. Also, this year, we launched an ITU World Bank Global Data Facility project on using mobile phone big data to work for policy. And in these countries, there were 18 countries selected. The telecom regulator is one of the key stakeholders that will be working together to make sure that the sustainability of the implementation of these projects. So I'll stop there and I'll be available for questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Esperanza. We're gonna have some more specific questions for you, but feel free also to answer questions in the chat as they come to you. We're now going to go to the National Statistical Office in Botswana, where we're going to hear from Potlako Kigari about their experience that is very, very up to date in terms of seeking access to MNO data for official statistics. So Potlako, can I pass it to you? I wanted to just ask if you could describe your journey to accessing this privately held data, and specifically focusing on what are the use cases and how the partnerships have developed in this process.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Janet, and everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for this introduction. Like we've said, my name is Potlako Kigari. I'm a statistician with Statistics Botswana, focusing on tourism statistics. Next slide, please. Like Sim has said, we are still at the very beginning, at the foundational level in terms of our quest to access mobile data. But just to highlight the mobile landscape in Botswana, we have 3 mobile network operators, with Orange being the largest market, having the largest market share. The 2 Orange and Mascom have been in the game for some time, with BTC being the latest entrant, still trying to build its market share. This journey we started in 2021 with the support of course of GPSDG, was maybe trying to assist us to track or monitor the COVID-19 pandemic. Though we did not manage the other interventions that were already in place, we also needed this data to address the data gaps, which are mainly a feature of every data collection and processing system. So the project started in 2021, but we are still here 2024 at the foundational level. We had a delay because of the population and housing census, which is a huge national project, which caused the suspension of most of the other projects to focus on that. But we're glad now we can go forward with the project. Next slide, please. So we have identified 4 main domains that we'd like to concentrate on as initial areas of concentration. We have tourism statistics, internal mobility, basic population, and ICT statistics. But our main focus is to address the challenges of tourism data. Tourism is a critical sector for economy, but we have the challenge of late data and a lot of gaps, whether from surveys or administrative data. The quality of the data sometimes is not to the right level. So we thought we should start with tourism as a key domain to focus on in using mobile phone data. So these are the 4 areas that we would like to focus on. And for basic, obviously for population, we conduct our census every 10 years, and in between, we can use this data to estimate our population. And these are not only the areas that, but for now, they are areas for focus. But as we progress, we'll look into other areas like the commuter transport statistics. But for now, these are the main use cases that we'd like to focus on. Thank you. Next slide. The journey so far, how we started, like I said, we started in 2021. We started with internal workshops, trying to bring all the key stakeholders into one room. We managed to hold 2 workshops, and which were attended by, of course, Statistics Botswana, the regulator, and the Ministry of Telecoms. But unfortunately, all the MNOs did not show up. So it was a struggle to bring them on board. We managed to set up a committee, internal committee, and appointed a project manager to try and drive this project. So far, we are on phase 3. We have identified all in all 5 to 6 phases, but we believe where we are now, we are in phase 3. This is where we were able to get a breakthrough. Early this year, we managed to call a high-level meeting that targeted chief executives of these MNOs. So they were all in attendance, all the important stakeholders like the Data Protection Commission and the other relevant stakeholders. Initially, when we started with those 2 workshops, in the first phase and the second phase, we had the Data Protection Act, but the commission was not yet set up. So luckily, when we had the last or the third at the third phase, they were on board. And I can say this is where we got the breakthrough in terms of the MNOs moving from the first 2 phases of a bit of resistance into embracing this initiative. First, because of the Data Protection Commission was in the House, it kind of delayed taking away the fears of data security and privacy. They got a bit of assurance that the data will be protected in that regard. Officers of these MNOs and all these other entities. I think that how we are where we are actually. Then in terms of barriers in the process, funding is going to be a big challenge to set up the infrastructure, and also the man hours of the technical officers of these MNOs, and of course also for third-party vendors where applicable for these MNOs to need to fund those to get the relevant data. The other issue that is a barrier is low technical skills and capacity in terms of big data analysis and data science, both in the NSO and our partners. And that's where we think we need more investment so that we are able to drive this project with the right capacity and skills. The next steps is built on the momentum from the third phase. Next step is to sign memorandums of understanding or contracts with the MNOs, and it will depend on the conversations, whether it be a collective agreement signed or it will be an individual or bilateral signing between the NSO and the MNO. From there, the next step is to establish the committees that will drive this project forward. We have a steering committee which will guide the whole process, and have the technical team which will mainly work on the technical aspect of this data sharing. And lastly, I think the next step should be the public sensitization, particularly to our data subjects. We need to talk to the civil society and the media to drive the message of the why and how that data will be used. So these are the three critical steps that I think should follow from where we are. I think I'll stop there. Like I said, we are still at the foundational level. It's a learning curve.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Janet.
so much, Polanco. We know that there's been a ton of work that has gone into where you're at right now. That even though it's pre-foundational at this point, that doesn't mean that there haven't been hours and hours and hours and hours and lots of thinking and planning, strategizing, and conversations with all those stakeholders. Excuse me. Well, with that, I'm going to pass it to Federico Segui, who is joining us from Uruguay, to talk a little bit about their perspective. I think it's really interesting for us to see these different partners in different parts of the world and the way their experience varies and what we can take away from that. So Federico, let me pass it to you. You have about 6 to 7 minutes for your presentation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Janet. And good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for the invitation. Please, can you move to the next slide? Thank you. I'm gonna tell you our experience on this topic. We started during the pandemic, accessing to this kind of data. In Uruguay, we have three MNOs, and one of them is a public one, and we have a conversation with them, and so we had the chance to access to this kind of data, aggregated data, during the pandemic, as I mentioned, and mainly for the National Emergency System Authority, and after that, of course, we wanted to access to have access or to keep having access to the data to produce other kind of statistics. But at the beginning, of course, experimental statistics. For instance, for mobility statistics, or also to make estimates in small areas. For instance, for population censuses, as a complement or to prepare the population censuses, and to strengthen capacities for planning sustainable urban mobility and also for immigration and tourism statistics. Next slide, please. And at that time, we received this matrix, origin destination of overnight activity matrix per day. So we can know how many mobile devices are moving from one place to another. And then we, based on this aggregated data, we produce some visualizations or dashboards. Please, next slide. Based on this methodology, we established the concept of overnight stay, when the cell phone stay for at least 4 hours between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m. during the night before of the reference day. And also we established the concept of primary activity when the cell phone was in use for at least 3 hours between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m. of the reference day. And we established 2 days of each week, on Wednesday and Sunday, or on business days, and to have information during the business days and on the weekends. The information was delivered monthly. Next slide, please. And then based on this matrix, we developed this dashboards, so we can choose one of the, for instance, area or neighborhood in Montevideo, the capital city of the country, and then in the map below we can see how many. I mean, the main 5 areas of destinations and for the primary activity, and then we can see a list or ranking on the right side of the dashboard of the main destinations areas, and also we have information on the origin area, how many cell phones stay there, or yeah, and other information that we can obtain from this kind of data visualizations. I think this is the last one. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the information that we produced during the pandemic, and after that, as I mentioned, we wanted to keep access to this data, but it was difficult. and we had a lot of conversations with the MNOs, and at the beginning they refused to share the data with us, and then we established contact with the URSEC, the regulator, and they were very open to start this process of discussions, led by Mercedes Aramendia, the president of URSEC, the regulator. And we, during the last 3 years, we had a number of different meetings, discussions with them, and they said that they didn't want to share the data. They want to sell the data service, you know. So, but after that, and we thought also in different incentives to the MNOs. But I think at the end they understood that it could be also useful for them. For instance, if we prepare this kind of visualizations, dashboards, it could be some kind of I don't know how to say, shop window. In Spanish is a vidriera, to sell their services in a different way. For instance, researchers that they are interested in this kind of information, but it is not enough that the indicator that we produce, they could reach the MNOs to go into a deeper analysis. So after that, and then thanks to the regulator, we could move to the next step and to establish a regulation to do it mandatory for the MNOs to share the data with the ORSEC, the regulator, and then with us, with the INE, to produce statistics. But I think Mercedes could tell you more about that, about the regulation and about this process. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Federico. When we're lucky to have Mercedes with us this morning from ORSEC. I should also say que también tenemos interpretación en español y en inglés, entonces si prefiere hablar en inglés o en español, como quieran ustedes, podemos escuchar cualquier idioma en inglés.
Okay, thank you very much.
So with that, Mercedes, I'll pass it to you and give you the chance to talk about what were the reasons that URSEC got engaged in this partnership, and what benefits did you see? And then how did you manage the risks that Federico, or the challenges that Federico mentioned?
Great. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. For Uruguay, a pleasure to join this meeting. Thank you very much for the invitation. URSEC is the regulatory unit of communication services. We are the agency in charge of supervising and regulating the telecommunications sector in Uruguay. Why did we think this project was important and why we joined it? The reality, when the INE approached us with this project and the importance for them to incorporate us, we analyzed it with our team. We thought it was a very good initiative, important for the development of our country, because we believe that quality data and working based on evidence is essential to make better decisions. So for us, within the framework of our competence, it was important to help and push for this to be possible, since it could collaborate a lot for the development of our country. Here are several aspects that come together. Firstly, the importance and the need to interinstitutional cooperation. URSEC, INE, and the operators of telecommunication services, public and private providers, we began the design of this project several years ago, listening to all parties as well as the concerns of each one. We are convinced that cooperation is essential to achieve public interest objectives and generate a positive impact on society in the best way. Secondly, the positive impact that this project can have on society and therefore the public interest in its development. Since the main objective of this project is to obtain high-quality data that will allow us to better understand the mobility of the population and as a result be able to design evidence-based public policies. Information on population mobility is essential to better respond to the needs of the citizens, always within a framework that respects the privacy and competence of the various agencies. Thirdly, it is interesting to highlight the importance of responsible data management. Since the beginning of the project, we have been very clear on the importance of respecting the rights of users, such as privacy. Therefore, and in response to the various concerns received, we consulted the national agency specializing in personal data. We presented the project and asked for their opinion. They studied the project and issued some recommendations. As a result, we made some adjustments to the initial project in order to provide more security and guarantees to fully respect the privacy of individuals. In this regard, I would like to emphasize that only data necessary for statistical purposes will be collected without requesting additional information. Rigorous anonymization and aggregation measures will be applied, ensuring that personal information cannot be traced or used inappropriately, while also working to ensure that they are properly hosted and secure. Fourthly, the importance of each of the agencies involved acting within the framework of their legal competencies. URSEC, for example, ensures that telecommunication operators comply with established regulations, while INE is responsible for analyzing the data in statistical terms. This clear division of competencies ensures that the project is developed in an efficient and responsible manner, respecting the national legal system as a whole. This clear division will help us a lot. Also, what are the benefits that we expect from this project? We believe that this project will bring many benefits to society. With accurate mobility data, cities can better plan their infrastructure, optimize transportation, and reduce traffic congestion. In addition, this data allows local governments to design policies more aligned with the real needs of the population, benefiting in this way both urban and rural areas. It can have an impact on making cities smarter. Data can be used to adjust public services such as transportation, energy, and water to the actual demands of the population in real time. Moreover, it can benefit tourism and better respond to emergency situations. Mobility data provides a clear view of how people move around the country, which can be used by the tourism industry to design more effective strategies. This information is also very valuable for managing emergencies, allowing a faster and more efficient response in critical situations. It is worth nothing, and Federico mentioned before, that our country had a first experience of using this type of information during the COVID-19 pandemic, which helped to better plan and respond to the challenges presented. What were the various risks identified and how are we working to mitigate them? Of course, privacy protection was considered from the outset. For this purpose, as I already mentioned, the project was submitted to the data protection expert body, which made some considerations, and we adjust the project to incorporate all its recommendations. In this regard, I would like to emphasize that the data will be processed in an anonymized and aggregated manner, ensuring that no individual person can be identified. This anonymized data will be stored securely following international best practices in cybersecurity and data protection. In conclusion, we believe that this project represents an important step toward the future of data-driven and evidence-based policies in Uruguay. Cooperation between the various actors in the sector, public and private, along with a rigorous focus on privacy protection, is key to ensuring that technological innovation benefits all citizens in a fair and equitable manner. The result of this project can have a significant impact in areas such as mobility, tourism, urban planning, and emergency management. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mercedes. And I really appreciate that we've had these two perspectives from Uruguay from both sides, because you're both working in your own environments, your own contexts, coming to this project with the same goals in mind to improve the data that's available to make better decisions for national development. And before we move on to our next country group, I wanted to come back to you two from Uruguay, but also to Potlaco. One of the things that hasn't come up yet is what has brought the MNOs to the table, what incentives private companies have had to engage in this process. And I know in Uruguay, there was some legislation regulation that came up around this, but I'm just wondering, beyond that, what are the incentives for MNOs to engage on this issue specifically? In your case, in Uruguay and Potlaco, if you'd like to mention anything about Botswana, I'll pass it to Mercedes. How about I pass it back to you?
Okay. As Federico mentioned, we started to work with the operators during the pandemic, during COVID-19. And at that time, they said directly to INE that they want the regulator to be in the table also, because they already send and share with us different information that we use for different purposes as to know how the market is working, how the population, which are the population needs, how the different services are being developed, as just to mention some examples. And INE called us. We believe that that is a good project. So we called the operators to come and to start to work with us. Of course, they put on the table different concerns. The main was related with a privacy concern and to how we are going to protect the information of consumers. So we analyze all the concerns and we try to have a permanent, continuous dialogue with them, sharing our perspective and asking them to help us, because we believe that that's the best way to do things, in a collaborative way and having a constant dialogue that will help us to achieve our goals in a better way.
Thank you. Federico, do you want to add anything to that about what the operators?
Marcel's explaining perfect. I mentioned it during the presentation that of course this could be a new business for the MNOs. I mean, selling the data service is completely understandable. But they also, at the end, I think they understood that it could also a win-win project. They could share this information with URSEC and INE to produce some statistics that could be useful for researchers, but maybe they are not enough, so they need more. So they could go to directly to the MNOs to have their own business, you know. So this could be an incentive also for them to collaborate with us and to be part of this collaborative project and this win-win project. Thank you.
Thank you. Potlaco, would you like to add anything about the incentives that have been discussed in Botswana for mobile network operators to be engaged?
Thank you, Janet. I think mainly the appreciation of the MNOs of what type of data has been required, that it will be anonymized and will be used for what purpose. That's what brought them to embrace this initiative. But in terms of incentives, I think the realization that they can also benefit by collaborating with the Statistics Botswana in terms of analysis of other data that is being produced, can be analyzed further to help them with their business insights. I think the other incentive is that with this type of data, they can lobby better to government to provide more infrastructure in areas that do not have the right infrastructure, like setting up of towers. So they see benefits apart from the commercial value that they were thinking of in terms of buying or paying for data in the first place. So I think those are some of the incentives that they realized that they can tap from this collaboration. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Polako. And that sounds like there's that commonality across even the two different continents, and kind of what's the incentive to engage in these two cases. Not to say that's always the case, but with that, I'm going to pass it to our colleagues in Indonesia, and I've quit sharing my screen here because I'm going to pass it to Statistics Indonesia, to Echo, who is going to share their screen. May I pass it to you now, Echo? And I think you're still on mute if you...
Okay, let me try to share my screen. Can you see my screen better now?
Yes, and we
Okay,
can hear you
perfect.
too.
Hello everyone, good evening. Thanks Janet and Sim for the invitation. And also I see Pak Alfian from the MNO Telkomsel also here. Thank you very much for the continued support for us for BPS since 2016. I hope it's also long last like Sim expectation for Positium 16 or 15 years and keep counting. My name is Echo. I'm from BPS Statistics Indonesia. So today I will share Indonesia experience on accessing NPD for tourism statistics in Indonesia. So tourism statistics in Indonesia has been a national priority for quite a while at this moment. And in Indonesia, we at the BPS, we have obligations to provide main data. For example, like domestic tourism, there's Indonesian tourists within Indonesia, inbound tourism, international tourists or visits to Indonesia, and outbound tourism is like for the national, national for Indonesian citizens that goes abroad. We also have to provide hotel statistic, restaurant statistic, and tourism objects. So to provide all those information, we combine three strategies or data sources: primary data, administrative data, and the newest one is the big data or MPD. So for the primary data, you use this primary data or conventional survey for the tourism industry survey, and also passenger exit survey to analyze the inbound visitor expenses, and tourism digital survey because domestic and outbound tourist expenses cannot cover by the NPD, so we have to ask by self-enumeration through the digital survey. Administrative data, we use the data from the immigration offices to complete the NPD data or inbound tourism from the cross-border areas. So in terms of history, we start the NPD analysis or the use of NPD since 2016, that the inbound tourists in the cross-border areas as the complement data from the immigration office. And this data is still going until now. And in 2018, we extend the use of NPD to the domestic tourists and kilometer statistics. 2019, for the outbound tourists. 2021, the Ministry of National Agency and Planning request us or making a demands to use this data also for MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area. And in 2022, we expand the coverage of outbound tourists. And since 2023, we released the data monthly. So before that, we released the data annually. So, so this is the the forms of MPD partnerships in Indonesia at this moment. So we are collaborating with three major operators in Indonesia: Telkomsel, Indosat, and XL Axiata. So Telkomsel, we collaborate for three tourism analysis: inbound, outbound, and domestic. Indosat, we collaborate for outbound and also domestic, and XL is only for the the outbound statistics. So on the right figures, you could see our official statistical news. So we just released the data yesterday. So every month we release the data of international visitors, domestic tourists, outbound trips, and also hotel occupancy rate based on the primary data. So after these last few years, of course, we do a lot of business process transformations from the traditional survey on the second column or third column. So we analyze or gather all the variables of number of trips, origin, destinations, average length of stay, trip motivation, demographic, and modes of transportation. Before that, we use traditional survey. It is expensive, time consuming as well, and we need a lot of people to do that. And we just process the data a year after, and it takes a lot of process, of course. But with the combined approach, we can combine between MPD and digital survey to collect all this information in a better, timely manner. Number of trips, origin, destination, even the average length of stay, we can get it from the MPD. And for the digital survey, to get the characteristic of the visitors. This is like the example of the use of MPD for domestic tourism trip. So we have to define what's the concept of what's the visitors of domestic tourism in IRTS, International Recommendation for Tourism Statistics, and translate it into algorithm or script into the MPD analysis. So we define the state point, usual environment, and then usual environment is like work or home. And then if they travel more than 6 hours outside the usual environment, then you can say that it's a trip of the visit. If it's less than 6 hours, this is not included, or so the threshold is 6 hours, and it's not more than 4 visits per month. But not only stop over there, we also have to compare the number of houses that has no phone number or no mobile phone, and maybe there are some people who has a double SIM card, and also some area that are not covered by the signal of MPD. So we have to do some calculation and estimations, and then we combine all together to measure this data. And for the digital survey, we use this digital survey to get the characteristics of the visitors, both outbound and also domestic tourists. So for the domestic tourists, for instance, this year we have a target like almost 150,000 respondents, and surprisingly, less than 2 months, we almost received or achieved the target. It's very great collaborations, thanks to the operators as well, that we almost reached the targets. And I hope that until the end of the year, we can exceed the targets. And what's the strategy? So we provide the reward for respondents, like the credit, e-money balance, or data package. And this surveilling was also blasted through the SMS. We also have the binding contract clause to achieve the sample targets, and also and I think the operator also have some strategy to improve or achieve the target by analyzing the behavior of the respondent, how to respond, when to respond, and fill the questionnaires of the SMS. So this is the example of the analysis of the data that we just published yesterday. So you could see that the number of people who travel in Indonesia, domestic tourists, is like 75.88 million in 1 month. From January to August, it's almost 700. It's like 674 million domestic trips just until August 2024. We could see the pattern. We could also see the peak season, low season, when they travel, where they're going. And also we can see the destinations at the origins, and a lot of analysis that we can analyze. Compared to the inbound tourists to Indonesia, currently almost 9 million, and outbound tourists almost 6 million. So based on this MPD data, we could really see that domestic tourism is very powerful and has a big potential for Indonesia. However, of course, we have still some challenges in terms of data governance. As Esperanza mentions in the beginning, of course, data access, dependency, and interoperability also still an issue. But I don't really see it's becoming a very big issue, because we have a good partnership as well, that the operators very open for us in terms of the analysis, in terms of the communication, how to test the script, how to check the algorithm to make sure it works properly. Concepts, methodology, standardization, human resource infrastructure, and also how to measure and monitor data quality. So I also propose a big data governance framework from my previous thesis. If you're interested, I also provide some QR code at the end of my slides, then you can check for any details. The last one is future directions. What's next? Of course, yes.
I am so sorry to interrupt you, but I don't want to run out of time for Telkomsel. If
Yes.
you could just close up in the next minute, and then we will pass it to your colleague also from Indonesia.
Yes, thank you. So this is the last one. So the further analysis, we will have further analysis, the timeliness and partnerships. And yeah, then I will stop it here, of course, so we don't have to run out of the time.
No, I'm so sorry to do that. I appreciate it. Indonesia's
No,
got
no, no.
such valuable experience that it's not it's something that we could love to hear about for many hours. So
Yes, thank you very much.
and we'll come back to you, Echo, as well, I know, but I wanted to pass it quickly to Alfian from Telkomsel to talk a little bit about, from the MNO perspective, why and how you engaged in this project and what the benefits and challenges that you saw have been.
All right. Thank you, Janet. And hi, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, and evening to all of you. My name is Alfian Manulang. I'm from the mobile network operator sites. I'm from Telkomsel, Indonesia. Currently, just a bit of Telkomsel for you to know. We are #1 operators. We hold market share around 50%. So I think with 50%, it really can represent what will be the Indonesia look like, right? So according to Janet, what is the benefit of having data sharing with partners like National Statistic Office? Number one is we can enhance our public value by sharing data that we have currently gathered internally, right? The MPD, mobile positioning device, with BPS, Telkomsel able to contribute to our statistic agency, and actually to help like one of the challenging factor like tourism, how we can able to support, and also how we can support our national development goals, and actually to prove as well that our data is bringing social impact. So we are, as a company, we are also want to be an ESG company, environment, social, and governance company as well. And second is about strengthening partnership. Engaging public institution like National Statistic Office is also bring our reputation and expand our network of stakeholder, and then also leading into future business opportunity when we are also collaborating in other sector like transportation and like another like emergency response as well. And collaborating with the NSO actually improve our service offering as well. So with data sharing, Telkomsel able to develop better product and services. We can create insight that derive from MPD, not only from tourism, but in other use cases, whether it is our internal use cases or even our service optimization. So the potential is Telkomsel able to bring new solution and future commercial opportunities. Of course, commercial is one of the things, but I think the biggest chunk of commercial is in the private sector. So at least on a public sector, at least we can recoup our investment, something like that. But more commercial is actually bringing into the private sector. Okay. Second is about what are the principle that our key for data partnership with this national statistic. Three things is about data and privacy protections. it is very key that Telkomsel really oblige or under the Indonesian personal data protections that will take effect. Actually, it was launched 2 years back. Now, by 17th of October, it really effective will be in place. And then we need to ensure that all our data sharing activity comply with the regulation, like obtaining a user consent and following privacy by design principle. Second is about transparency and trust. A successful data sharing partnership must be transparent, ensuring that the stakeholder aware that how data is being protected. By building like mechanism to opt out is something that we are currently building when a user is really they don't want to be data processed as well. So it is to make sure that subject data right is really maintained as well. And third is about data minimization and purpose limitation. We make sure that only necessary data is being shared and being used strictly for intended purposes, such as aggregated tourism insight or without compromising individual privacy. I think that the key principle and what make it different to work with statistic office, particularly the risk and reward, is actually collaborating with BPS. We are able to improve actually our internal data accuracy, because the demand or the quality is become increasing from every year to every year. The granularity that demanded as well. So actually, we are really increasing our capability internally, how we provide the data, providing from what are the data source that we can ingest and then really can be benefit for the NSO. That's one of the things that we are, experience. And also, one of the key challenges with national NSO as well, actually, to make sure that the data is comprehensive. The granularity, not only in the level of provinces, district, but sub-district, something that really take the challenge also in our data processing. How then we can create, provide as well the new mechanism, new data source that available in our technology right now. So that's challenges. And what are the future that we expected is about technology enhancement. Technology enhancement is really, they are involving previously all data processing being done in our data center. Now with the cloud technology, we are also embracing that, how we can work with BPS, our NSO, that the sandbox is being provided so that more flexibility is being given, of course, with privacy concern matter as well. And then, of course, we want to have a broader use cases expanding from this MPD, like urban planning, transportation planning, agglomeration area plan, disaster risk recovery plan, infrastructure planning, and then offering more value to our national and also regional policymaker. So I think that's all I can share on what are the key that in mobile network perspective in terms of the key principle, the benefit, the challenges, and the future that I can share with you tonight.
Thank you so much. That is so valuable to hear as well. And Indonesia's like, I'm just amazed. The amount of the data, the time you've been producing these statistics and what you can do with them is really amazing. So thank you. I'm conscious that we are going to run out of time here. I'm going to share a poll for feedback on this session and pass it to Sim from POSITIEM to give us some last comments or remarks before we close this out.
Great. I think the best comments are the ones that you noted down from the speakers, because there are many notes that you could have taken hopefully there will be a recording online. Will there be, Janet?
Yes, there will be in about a week.
Great, because
And
surely
It's a
we missed.
two-part series, right? So there's like the first one and the second one that if you watch them together, I think provide a pretty good overview.
Great. So with these conversations, when you have multiple people with their years of experience, surely there's something that you missed. So even if you attended today, probably it would be good to revisit the recording. I noted down several things regarding the motivations of mobile network operators in Botswana, in Uruguay, and in Indonesia, why they would interact in these kinds of projects. And some of the main things, of course, are just being able to respond to the request of the of CISC office is important, and it shows that really the data can provide some social impact. But you also heard that from practitioners that the capability of the mobile network operator is actually increasing as demands from the CISC office are increasing, growing each year as new and new data products from this data come to light. And also, if you haven't done this already, I suggest you go through the chat as long as you can, and see what kind of conversations people had there. I responded to a lot of messages, and I think the interactivity has been great. Great work, Janet, and great work, speakers. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Yeah, I really want to extend my deepest heartfelt appreciation to the speakers who joined this call. This was a really ambitious idea to try to get so many different perspectives on one call. But I think we all know that if you work in a statistics office or in the private sector, your time is precious, no matter what. And so being able to get this broad overview, I hope provided just food for thought for people on this call who are approaching this process, maybe deep in it or for the first time. I've put my email up here because I am happy to connect you to anyone else on this call if you'd like to get in touch with Sim, or if you'd like to speak to one of the speakers directly, just send me an email and I'm happy to connect you with their consent. And as Sim mentioned, this recording will be online as well as the one before this, which focused on a broader set of use cases for big data for national statistics. And with that, I will just thank you so much for coming and wish you all a very good day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.
Goodbye all.